the Business Council and its main financial service. Brazilian president is speaking right now.
It began operations 4 years ago.
Let's listen.
A strong foundation for the bank has been built, and the bank is now reaching a steady state of operations. Thus far, the NDB has approved 46 projects for a total of US $12.8 billion in our member countries. By the end of this year, we expect approvals to reach about US $15 billion. In 2020, we are targeting approvals of between US $8 to $10 billion.
Let's listen in.
We expect to make our first 2 equity investments in Brazil and India this year. We are measuring the impact of our work through our contributions to the achievement of sustainable development goals that our members have committed to. We are supporting projects that address some of the core development needs in our member countries. In Brazil, we are supporting improved physical connectivity of remote areas to logistics hubs while simultaneously laying the infrastructure for enhanced digital connectivity. In Russia, in addition to financing infrastructure that will conserve and improve accessibility to historic and cultural centers, we are moving into new areas, such as bringing digital technologies to the judicial system and expanding higher education, and are looking at support to the Russian railways. In India, we are investing in improving connectivity of rural areas to markets, as well as better management of water resources and urban transport. In China, we are contributing to the rehabilitation and restoration of environmental assets that were impacted during the phase of rapid growth and are lending for innovative green technologies. In South Africa, we are resisting energy transport and water projects in areas that are important for the country. The key aspects that differentiate the bank from most of its peers are: first, we delivered on our commitment to lend in local currency. Nearly 40% of our South Africa portfolio is in rand. There's also an increasing demand for lending in renminbi to Chinese projects. We are now focusing on expanding this to our other members. Second, we have delivered on our promise to do things at speed while not compromising quality. The average time taken for project preparation is below the 6-month target that we had set for ourselves. Third, we have demonstrated that using country systems for environmental and social aspects of projects, as well as procurement, is feasible and a positive contributor for successful project implementation. NDB has thus far received US $5.6 billion in capital, including advance payments of the 5th installment by China and Russia. Thank you for your support. The bank's Africa Regional Center in Johannesburg has proved that on-the-ground presence makes a big difference in our work. Our Brazil office is already staffed and ready to open, and we await completion of formalities. This will give us a big push in Brazil. Preparation for our office in Moscow are at an advanced stage, and we'll follow that up with our India office, both in the first half of 2020. The bank has received international AA+ credit ratings from Fitch and Standard & Poor's, and an international AAA rating from Japan Credit Rating Agency. These ratings are the highest that any multilateral development bank, whose members are all developing countries, has achieved. This clearly demonstrates the wisdom of our founders. The bank is now appropriately staffed, and we have fewer challenges in recruitment from across our member countries. We have 162 staff members on board at present and expect to have about 200 people on board by next year. On the funding side, we continue with our renminbi bond programs and have initiated a Euro commercial paper program. We plan to raise funds in rand and ruble early next year, to be followed by issuances in rupee and rias. We are broadening the scope of our hard currency lending to include the euro, in line with increasing interest from our members. We will always endeavor to deliver the best possible financing solution to our members and clients. Excellencies, as this is likely to be my last update to you as President of the bank, given the forthcoming transition in July 2020, I would like to take this opportunity to share my thoughts on what I see is the future for the bank. The NDB is now a full-fledged operating bank in terms of people, processes, products, and platforms. We now stand proudly, shoulder to shoulder, with our peer multilateral development banks. You'd be pleased to know that in terms of annual lending volume, the bank has achieved in 4 years what many of its peers took several decades to achieve. Starting 2020, the bank is capable of sustaining between $8 to $10 billion of annual lending. With the initial $10 billion of capital that has been provided to us by the founding members, by 2027, the bank can achieve a total asset book of about $50 billion. There are interesting financial innovations that can be adopted by the bank to mobilize equity-like instruments from the markets. I believe the adoption of these innovations can help the bank grow to a size of nearly $75 billion with the initial $10 billion of capital that was paid in by the founding members. This would place the bank in the top tier of multilateral development banks globally. Excellencies, the NDB is a testament to the ability of developing countries to stand on their own feet. It is also a demonstration of the ability of developing countries to meet the growing aspirations of their citizens through establishing institutions that can bring finance, technology, and knowledge to bear on key development challenges. We will continue to work with our members for the benefit of their citizens and the world. Excellencies, thank you for your continued support. Thank you.
Agradeço ao presidente do NDB por sua apresentação.
Now let's welcome
Convido agora
the president
a fazer uso da palavra o
of the
presidente de
BRICS
turno
Business
do
Council
Conselho Empresarial do BRICS, Sr. Jackson Schneider.
to deliver the speech. Welcome.
Excelentíssimo senhor Jair Bolsonaro, presidente da República Federativa do Brasil.
Your
Excelentíssimo senhor
Excellency,
Vladimir Putin,
President
presidente da
Jair
Federação
Bolsonaro.
Russa. Excelentíssimo senhor Narendra Modi, primeiro-ministro da República da Índia. Excelentíssimo senhor Jinping, presidente da República Popular da China.
State,
E excelentíssimo senhor Cyril Ramaphosa, presidente da República da África do Sul.
Your Excellency,
O Conselho Empresarial do
President
BRICS
Xi
foi criado em
Jinping, Your Excellency,
2013
Prime
para
Minister
atuar como
Narendra
principal
Modi,
mecanismo
Your
de
Excellency,
diálogo entre o
President
setor
Vladimir
privado
Putin,
e os
and Your
governos
Excellency,
do Brasil,
President
Rússia,
Ramaphosa.
Índia, China e África do Sul.
Since our
Os 5
inception in
primeiros anos de existência do Conselho Empresarial do BRICS
2003,
foram fundamentais
our
para o
5
fortalecimento da
countries
cooperação entre os setores privados e para a identificação
organized
de novas oportunidades de
the
negócios.
BRICS Business Council,
Considerando que grande
aiming
parte do comércio
to
mundial
strengthen
é impulsionada pelo comércio entre
trade
empresas,
cooperation.
estamos certos que entre 2015 e 2018 contribuímos com o crescimento de 22% da economia de nossos países. Em
August
2019, com a
2015,
presidência brasileira, inauguramos o segundo ciclo de funcionamento do Conselho Empresarial do
20%
BRICS.
increase
Para este novo
has been
momento, há
achieved
consenso
among
entre os
the
25
bloc.
membros do Conselho de que é necessário avançarmos em ações que
The
melhorem o ambiente de
establishment of
negócios,
the BRICS
facilitem
Business
o comércio e os
Council play a
investimentos,
greater role
superem barreiras e fomentem
promote
a inovação. Desta
the
forma,
trade,
hoje temos a honra
investment,
de apresentar aos chefes de Estado e de
cooperation among the
Governo
bloc
o
and also
relatório
help
anual
to
do
eliminate
Conselho Empresarial do
trade
BRICS,
barriers.
documento que compila as principais recomendações do
We
setor
also
privado que
received a
demandam
great
ações
endorsement
governamentais para serem implementadas.
of
Estas
the
recomendações
government
foram debatidas por
among the
9
region,
grupos de
and we also
trabalho
received
que atuam
the
como órgãos
investment from
consultivos do
the
Conselho
private sectors.
para os seguintes temas:
Therefore, we
agronegócio,
establish the
serviços
working
financeiros,
mechanism and the
energia,
working groups in this
infraestrutura,
regard,
aviação,
especially in the sectors of
desregulamentação,
finance,
economia digital
energy,
e desenvolvimento de
resources,
competências.
agriculture,
O relatório
aerospace,
apresenta 23
transportation,
prioridades
infrastructure,
identificadas pelo
and
setor
other
privado.
areas.
Mas como o tempo é escasso,
In our recent
destaco
release
apenas
reports, we
10
also
delas.
prioritize
Primeiro,
the areas
estabelecer
for
acordos de
cooperation.
reconhecimento mútuo entre os programas de operadores econômicos autorizados para simplificar os procedimentos aduaneiros e reduzir prazos e custos nas operações de comércio exterior.
And we also made
Segundo,
efforts to
definir pontos
facilitate
focais para responder dúvidas
custom
sobre
clearance,
investimentos diretos,
inspection
prevenir
and
disputas,
quarantine. We
aumentar
also
a
signed
transparência e o
documents in
estoque
this
de
regard.
investimentos.
And we
Terceira,
also sent
promover a
documents
conectividade em áreas remotas,
and
possibilitando
agreements
o uso
to
de
deal with the
tecnologias da
trade
indústria
friction.
4.0, como a internet das coisas. Quarta, trocar experiências sobre
This
biotecnologia moderna para aumentar a
we BRICS
eficiência e a
countries
sustentabilidade na agricultura.
have boosted
Harmonizar
the
regulamentos
cooperation,
sanitários e fitossanitários,
especially the
bem como
sustainable
adotar
development
certificados
in
fitossanitários
agricultural
eletrônicos
sectors,
para
in
tornar
health
as exportações mais eficientes. Sexto, trocar informações e melhores práticas sobre
We can
gestão de
see
resíduos para o desenvolvimento
a
de novos
good flow
negócios no
for
contexto da
countries'
economia
imports
verde.
and exports.
Sétimo, ampliar a qualificação
We vigorously
de informações
push
sobre
forward
parcerias
green
públicos-privadas
economic
em projetos de infraestrutura, permitindo a melhor avaliação de risco por parte do setor privado.
And we also have projects in the infrastructure
fundo de
construction
private equity
and
em
also
parceria
cooperation
com o
in private
NDB
sectors.
para fomentar a análise e apoiar projetos de infraestrutura.
With the cooperation,
Nona, criar um inventário de melhores
the
práticas em
BRICS
aviação
New
para
Development
aprimorar as políticas
We also
públicas no
have
setor e
the
tornar o
ongoing
transporte
projects
aéreo mais acessível,
with our
seguro
joint
e sustentável. Décimo,
and we would like to
adotar
bear
currículos
more
comuns
fruitful
para o
outcomes
desenvolvimento de habilidades
with our
futuras
joint efforts.
na educação técnica e profissional.
That's all
Para o
aim
setor
to create
privado, o BRICS já
prosperous
remodelou a economia
future.
global.
We would like to
Somos
see more
responsáveis por
in-depth cooperation
33%
in
da
various
corrente de comércio mundial,
sectors.
por
And we
1/5 das
also play the
exportações
due role
e por 16% dos
help the
investimentos
world
diretos
economy
estrangeiros.
and also make
O
our
Conselho
contribution.
Empresarial entende que o
to the
BRICS
world
pode
economy.
desempenhar um papel ainda maior na promoção do crescimento, criando empregos
At the
e
international
assegurando o
stage,
desenvolvimento sustentável de
The
nossos
BRICS
países.
Business Council play a
relatório
greater
anual
role,
do Conselho
especially in
Empresarial do
sustainable
BRICS,
development.
que entregaremos a seguir, descreve as respostas políticas
This is the
necessárias
end
com
of
recomendação de ações
the
práticas
report
para sua
made by
implementação.
Business
Renovo
Council
o compromisso do
BRICS. I
Conselho
would like
Empresarial
to
do BRICS para colaborar com a
welcome
agenda
all your
governamental
support
e
continuously.
colocar as relações econômicas entre os nossos
And
países
we
em um patamar
also
ainda
work
mais elevado e
relentlessly
estratégico.
to work with BRICS
obrigado.
countries and also become a cooperation platform for all. Thank you.
All right, if you were just tuning in, we were listening to a dialogue coming out of Brazil. Leaders of the BRICS emerging economies are holding a meeting with the BRICS Business Council and the New Development Bank. Now, the president of the New Development Bank, Kundapur Vaman Kamath, was addressing the forum earlier, not the Brazilian president. Now, he talked about the success of the bank so far and its future plans. He also said he wants to expand to other emerging economies. Now, the chairman of the BRICS Business Council spoke next. He too spoke about the council's efforts in promoting business, trade, and investment ties. Now, for more on this, Professor Fu Chun of Peking University joins me again in the studio. Now, he's also the Academic Dean of Institute of South-South Cooperation and Development. Thanks for joining us again, Professor. Now, first, talk to us about the importance of the BRICS Business Council.
Well, when the 5 countries, initially it's 4, come together, the primary purpose was actually economics. Then, of course, there are 2 focuses, politics, economics. Now, the third dimension is people-to-people exchanges. So, the way I look at the BRIC group is, well, it has a very strong focus on business. So the Business Council is so important, and for the world economy to move forward. And this bloc, as I said earlier, with a population that takes 42% of the world's total, and the land mass of 1/3 almost, and the GDP 22, and the trade 16% of the world's total. So business is so important for the BRIC summit meeting. And if I heard clearly, and they want to lower barriers in terms of trade and investment, and also to build better environments for private business. Now, incidentally, private business, even when we look at here in China, if we look at the past 40 years of economic growth, as playing a very important role in terms of economic growth. Now, the non-state sector is contributing to more than 60% of our GDP from a level which was negligible 40 years ago. And in terms of contribution to innovation, innovation also is a big theme of this meeting. And the private non-state sector has contributed to more than 70%. Trade, 80%. Employment, 90%. So it's so important to strike for the Business Council to talk about these important themes.
Now, speaking of, we also heard the chairman of the BRICS the president of the New Development Bank speaking as well. The new development bank aims to help its members get access to lending at lower costs. How can it expand further?
Well, lower rates as a policy bank. It's a multilateral development. It's a policy bank. Now you are looking at sort of three categories of banking. It's commercial banking, state aids, then development bank. And I guess for the next phase, the way I look at that is so far for that bank to be in operation in the past 4 years, the numbers that the president gave us is very impressive. It took just 4 years to accomplish the things they done for the earlier banks decades to accomplish. I guess for the banks to move forward, I would think it's a positive sign to include more numbers, if only because when I look at the experience of the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, the membership is much larger than this one. And with the larger membership, because the projects they did tend to be complicated, and it would be good to have various experiences from both developed as well as developing countries to come together to do those very complicated banks. After all, the world is changing. You are not just talking about the sort of the traditional hard infrastructure, and now you are talking about infrastructure with environment, with technologies that's on the horizon. It's so important when you do infrastructure to also have a cut into those horizons with the new technology that's coming. So I would sort of see as a positive sign if you have applications and the bank is considering expansion of its membership.
All right, thanks, Professor, for those perspectives. Do stay with us. The dialogue is still ongoing, and we'll speak to you shortly. Now, 5 years ago, the BRICS nations established the new development bank to fund sustainable projects in emerging economies all over the world. Ahead of this year's summit, Lin Nan asked the bank's president whether it's met that goal.
Basically, when you look at a bank, the foundation is strong, the capital is in, and the lending has started on a good note. Our focus is infrastructure, and within infrastructure, our focus is sustainable infrastructure. We have done projects in a wide variety of areas, whether it is water, particularly water to people who have not had access to water, roads, again, access for those people who did not have access to good roads, clean power, that has been a major part of our business, and then a variety of other projects in our other member countries.
And how can the NDB serve countries' development and strengthen multilateral cooperation under the framework of the BRICS?
I think a very important question that you have raised. While BRICS may be a grouping of emerging countries, we have said that clearly we will work within the multilateral framework. So we always learn from our other sister institutions as they were. We learn their best practices. We also learn what could be improved and implement those practices. And most importantly, we work in sync with, say, the sustainable development goals that have been laid down in terms of what you need to do in the growth context going forward. So, as I said, everything that we do in terms of lending underpins sustainability.
What has the NDB achieved in terms of the mechanism innovation and finance innovation?
Yeah, a number of innovations there. I think 2 or 3 that I would like to cite are the use of local currency. I have to again thank China and the Chinese government for permitting us to raise the green bond and then another renminbi bond, both of which, as I said, were in renminbi, and lend in renminbi. So we are, I think, amongst the first institutions to raise currencies which are local to a country and then lend in those currencies. And currently we are exploring the same approach in other member countries.
And what's the future hold for the NDB?
I think the future is very bright because capital has come in, as I said, on schedule. We have ended up with a rating, as I said, of AA+, enabling us to access money at very low rates. So we are on a good path, and we then need to think in terms of how do we grow. As I said, capital is coming on time. The first stage is 10 billion. We believe that there will be decision soon on membership expansion. If membership expansion were to happen, that capital can grow to about 17 or 18 billion, which would give us enough scope to grow to, I would say, or aspire to grow to a bank with about 100 billion in assets over the next 8 to 10 years.
And I'm afraid we have to cut into our regular programming. Chinese President Xi Jinping is now addressing the BRICS summit. Let's listen in.
Agradeço ao presidente Ramaphosa seus comentários.
Thank you very much
Convido
for
agora
your
o
speech.
senhor presidente
Now I would like to invite
Xi Jinping da
His
República
Excellency,
Popular da China para fazer uso da
President
palavra.
of People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping, to deliver a speech. Your Excellency President Jair Bolsonaro, Your Excellency President Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Your Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, just now we here to deliberate the reports given by the BRICS New Development Bank and the BRICS Business Council. 1 year on, based on the practical cooperation and with the long-term picture in mind, the two institutions made a good contribution in energy, agriculture, financing service, transportation, aerospace, technological standards, digital economies, total 9 sectors. We have seen a notable outcomes. New Development Bank has seen a smooth progress with wider cooperation and extensive cooperation in different sectors. And we have seen more offices and branches set up in different regions. I'm very delighted to hear this good news about the progress made by the NDB and the Business Council. Right now, we have seen and witnessing the major changes unfolding in the international landscape. A new round of industrial revolution and science and technology changes emerging, which presenting a good opportunities for all countries. But on the other side, we have seen a big increase in deficit and the imbalance in North-South development. Unilateralism and protectionism also on the rise, which require all the countries to deal with the challenges imposed by the circumstance. The NDB and the Business Council are the key platforms for practical cooperation, which is also the flagship project on this BRICS platform. They should play a leading role. We hope we should, going forward, with the entrepreneurial spirit and be brave, be bold to make new things and fresh innovations, and to test the water and achieve a good and robust outcomes. When it comes to economic globalization, unilateralism and protectionism actually are the showstoppers. We hope we can work together to forge ahead and to join hands to overcome all these difficulties. For the BRICS countries, emerging markets, developing countries, we would like to see more roles and opportunities presented by our two organizations. We would like to forge a partnership on new industrial revolution and also conduct cooperation in innovation and the digital economy to create quality projects in order to benefit people of the bloc as well as the whole world. In this regard, NDB, by providing knowledge and financing services, can play an even greater role. With a spirit of open, inclusive cooperation and win-win for all, we would like to see that we can strengthen our cooperation in trade and finance in order to create a better synergy for further development. And we also would like to work with other countries outside BRICS as well as multilateral organizations for coordination and cooperation. And we also hope to hear more your voices and to give us suggestions in a pragmatic and scientific manner, so that also can help us to improve the business environment. We hope that you not only attach importance on the economic revenues and outcomes, but also shoulder the responsibility for the whole society and to achieve a sustainable development and inclusive growth. We should stay close to the people and also pay attention to their livelihood and also take in mind of the people with less developed and to achieve a common prosperity for all. So on the path of a high-quality development inclusive infrastructure, we would like to see more cooperation in this regard in order to create a connectivity partnership around the world. We should stay the path in terms of green, low carbon, and high quality. Shoulder more responsibility to protect our environment and develop and roll out green technologies in order to better deal with the climate change and make our due contribution to protect our beautiful world. And we also like to see that you will strengthen your capability internally to improve your capability, and we also would like to see a regional office and branches can play a greater role and achieve better outcomes. This is an irreversible trend that we would like to enlarge our size of the two organizations. Therefore, we should make our cooperation even closer and to prepare a solid foundation for expansion in terms of technology support. And I hope the BRICS New Development Bank and the BRICS Business Council in the next golden decade will forge ahead and play a greater role and contribution for the beautiful future. Thank you.